Welcome back, everybody, to the TCS Ladder League recaps. This is going to be the third one, and it's going to be recapping week two and previewing week three predictions for those matchups. Week two is very, very exciting. I'm excited to dig into those recaps plus week three predictions. So, starting out here, we're going to start with rung eight and move up per usual. I think for predictions, what I'm going to try to do in the future is towards the end, like week six, seven, eight, when there's not as many matches to recap slash preview. Then I'll kind of dive into some the prediction standings and kind of some scenarios to see people who are going to be ahead and whatnot. Kind of bring predictions to light when the recaps are going to get a little shorter. But for now, the recap's going to be long because we're recapping a ton. Still, tons of stuff going on in the early weeks. So let's start here with Anorak, Zoda, Nolan. And of course, this was might have been the surprise of the week for me. To see Zoda go from last week, where he did have problems last week, in that run, but it was pretty rusty, and I was a little unimpressed with Zoda, and I thought this week he might get last in this race, but he comes out and really really impressed me this week. Of course, loved that he went for the new bunker transition hit out of bounds slash drop and warp. I don't even know if we have an official name for that skip yet. But yeah. Besides that, he went for that, didn't save time with it, but did hit it. But enough about that trick. I'm really really impressed with Zoda. He kind of got right back into it, and honestly, take away some random mistakes here and there, and you're putting him right around his PB, and I did not expect that out of Zoda. So really really impressive out of him this week. I think he could be a contender to stay up again next week, very likely. Of course, Anorak and Nolan being. I guess first I'll touch on Nolan. He did actually barely edge out second place in this race, but it was 4 minutes back. But still, another race where I was just impressed with Nolan. I mean, didn't PB, but he was on decent pace the whole time. There wasn't like really any big major slowdowns from Nolan in this race, like big problems. But honestly, like he exits the tournament here. I technically think he gets a higher place than Anorak because he beat him in the elimination race. So coming in, I'm don't it's 24 seed I believe. Could be wrong in that, but I believe the 24 seed for Nolan. And he finishes out at the end of week two, which is just overperforming by a lot. Really, really big props to Nolan this tournament. I'm happy for him. You definitely shouldn't be disappointed from being out at this stage. We knew it was eventually gonna come, but you know what? He stuck around a lot longer than the initial prediction had thought. So props to Nolan this tournament. Hopefully he sticks with TCS because he can definitely get into the 3x range very easily and bring that time lower. Of course, now Anorak, there's a lot of mixed feelings here because, of course, he had some problems in the first race, and then he had a big Hoth battle soft lock in this race, which I'm not sure 4 minutes and 30 seconds if that might have, yeah, that probably would have put him back in, like, probably would have won him the race. It would have been really close because it's wave two soft lock. It's about 4.5 minutes into the split, so it would have been really really close without the soft lock. Zoda was like a little bit ahead anyways, but despite all that, it's unfortunate because I think part of it is kind of just like kicking yourself from last week to getting to this bottom rung in the first place, and then having to win and win and win and win, and then of course this week you have a big Hoth battle soft lock and you get knocked out way earlier than you really really like to in the tournament. Um, but yeah, I guess that just goes to show like how dangerous it is to be in the bottom rung because someone like Anorak, uh, who knows? Like I think going into week one, I thought he was gonna win his first match. He could have kind of been hanging up there in those middle rungs for a while before getting knocked out. But unfortunately goes down as early as he possibly could and out of the tournament. I wouldn't say it's like necessarily like, oh, this is like terrible, Anorak's terrible. No, a lot of it wasn't really his fault, right? But still, just slightly underperformed, and that was enough. Being once you're in the bottom rung, like you can't get out of it. You have to win every single match just to get to the 8 seed. So, even though he's out this week, I feel like it was a very very tough task, and Zoda's gonna have to carry that task on as well of just constantly winning, winning, winning to get out of this bottom rung. It's gonna be really tough. But yeah, I guess main takeaways from this race: Zoda, really really impressed with him. Nolan good showing, and Anorak unfortunately leaves us a little sooner than I thought. I'm sure he's not too thrilled with the performance out of this tournament, but he should be back and keep grinding. And I mean, he's got a solid PB, and it's got immense potential to go down. So unfortunate showing from Anorak, but um, he'll be back. Okay, the rung 7. This might go as this. Okay, I'm gonna keep this trend up because it happened last week. This is the bozo race of the week. I mean, come on, are we pod fraud deal? I mean, everyone has different opinions about it. Some people loved it, or some people liked it. Some people didn't like it. I'm on the side of what the heck are we doing? If I was Phantom, when Garrison and Twice Light just didn't do pod fraud, I would just, I hard locked on negotiations. Screw it, I'm going for it now. Like, come on. But whatever. Bozo race of the week. Mainly also because of the stuff that happened to Phantom here. The negotiations hard lock, the build crash. Like, okay, I'm like kind of taking this 255 from Phantom as like, I'm not really a sign of concern for him out of this random 255 because a lot of the stuff wasn't really okay. Build crash is technically in your control, and 1-1 soft lock or hard lock is in your control, but those mistakes weren't like, they weren't something that he's going to repeat, I'd imagine. So I'm not too concerned about this time. Obviously, a 255 is really, really bad. I'm not too concerned with Phantom because we've seen him early in the tournament and he's been doing well and he's gotten small PBs in between the weeks. So I'm not like too concerned about this Phantom performance necessarily. But yes, he goes down because of those crazy hard locks and crashes. Twice Light and Garrison. Garrison put up a time. Both of them put up a time a little weaker than I thought we were going to see from both of them. A little bit further behind. Obviously, they didn't attempt prod fraud, so there's some time lost there, but still, even with, if they were to both hit pod fraud, it's still a little bit underwhelming for both of them. I'd say that they are, trending on the way of potentially being in that bottom rung before runners like Flup and Charizard, who have kind of gone in the past 2 weeks and put up decent enough times. I guess week 1 wasn't too thrilling, but this week both put up pretty solid times. But yeah, I mean, I can't fault them too much. They won their race. They were way ahead the whole time, and they were probably both watching the stream, so it's not like you can really fault them for playing a little bit slower than I thought. They both move up. I don't think there's too much to take, like, too much craziness in that. But yeah, that's that match. Not too concerned about Phantom, I guess, the big takeaway. All right. This race. See, this one I called the Bozo match of the week, but this one was really competing simply because core competence. I mean, Flup and Charizard put on another show of a 1v1 classic in CCT where the lead gets changed again deep into the run on the second to last level. I think it was like not completely decided into Bespin as well. So that was fun. That was a fun race between those two, and obviously they're both going to get promoted. I'm excited to see them again next week in a situation where does not look like both of them are going to get promoted next week. So that'll be a fight for not getting relegated. But we'll get to that in the prediction section. And as for core competence, man, I knew that after last week it was a red flag, and I genuinely said he is not going to... I said in the recap, I said he's not going to get a time worse than a 250.33, and what do you know? I mean, 250.59. And this one was less about him playing bad and rather him making bad choices. Like, okay, he knew he lost the race, but he's just going for a DB2 for, like... I don't know how long he went for a DB2 for. So I would say, like, some of this time, like, a good 5 to 8 minutes, probably. I couldn't give you an exact... We're just going for weird, dumb strats that just, like, not gonna save you time, or, like, just not worth it in a tournament match ever. I think it's sort of the mentality of, like, once you're behind and you know you're gonna lose, you just kind of, like, give up. Like, oh, I give up and I'm just gonna go for stupid stuff and make a show out of this, which I think that's cool in other events, but in tournaments, I'm not a big fan. I'm not happy about the whole core situation and him just kind of slacking off towards the end of the run. I think if you're behind, even if you like 99.99% sure you're going to lose the race, I think you should still just lock in and play as best as you can, as smart as you can, and not go absolutely ridiculously all out. I mean, see, like DV2 isn't even going all out. It's just like, oh, I want to do a cool trick, you know. Um, but yeah, big concern. I mean, Core, as someone who, going in, I thought was going to be potential top 8 contender, I think is probably going to be out week 3, which is just crazy. I'll get to that more later, but yeah, really, really upsetting Core performance again. Um, you know, I still appreciate you for all the help in the tournament, of course. But as for gameplay, not 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 appreciative of that gameplay and decision making. All right, moving on from that race. Jableki, Razmi, Revelo, and of course, this was kind of the expected result. And even if Revelo didn't have the spaceport moment, he still would have gone down. But I think he would have put up a pretty respectable time. So like I can't even fault Revelo on the performance here too much. He would have gone down either way, but he would have put up a significantly better time without the spaceport hard lock or whatever. So yeah, no, I'm not too concerned about Revelo. He's gonna have a fun match next week where not sure who's gonna come out on top in that one, but for now, he goes down. It was the expected result. I'm not like too worried about that for him. Harass and Jableki. So Jableki again. And like I said, I think Jableki's just gonna get better and better and better. Same with Harass by the way. But speaking on Jableki first, like he's going to be in that week 8 matchup. I'm like almost set on it. But he gets another like a slight went from a high 229 to a low 229, and I think it's only getting better from here for Jableki. I'm impressed with Jableki's performance again. He moves up to rung 3, and I he's back in rung 3, and I think he's gonna have a good chance of making to rung 2. Yeah, I don't know. All I gotta say about Jableki is I'm impressed, and I think he's just gonna get better from here. Harass me with a little bit of a worse performance than last week. I mean, I still think Harass me is on the up. So once again, he does the job. Like a 233.35 is probably gonna be good enough against Revelo 90% of the time there. Revelo is going to have to go on a crazy PB during a tournament match to beat that. So probably good, like going to be good enough 90% of the time. So he does the job. Erasmi does the job. I'm still pretty high on Erasmi in this tournament. And yeah, I mean, kind of the expected outcome goes for that race. All right, and then moving up to rung 2. This was honestly, so I watched this like the full race of this one. I enjoyed this one, even though it was complete Roadhouse show blowout. And by the way, I can speak individually about Roadhouse's performance in a second, but first I'd like to address the amazing race we had between DeHamster and Laser. Pretty much the whole way. I was back and forth quite a bit. I believe Laser, it might have been Laser was just slightly ahead pretty much the whole time. And then they were dead even after like a really close CCT where Hamster was kind of like 20. See, the thing was, Hamster had some controller issues at the start, so he was like not behind really LTA. He was like closer behind LTA than what the gap actually showed, so it was a little confusing, especially going into Bestman because they were dead tied, but the stream showed Laser ahead by like 30 seconds, so it was a little confusing. But Laser just kind of played the better Bestman at the end of the day. He had a much worse Cloud City trap, and the Hamster probably made up time, big time there, but Laser comes out, and I think honestly probably was within 5 seconds going into end platform. Seeing that, like, because Laser had a significantly better end platform than the Hamster in that match. I think like Hamster died on the bridge, and but yeah, they put together a really really good race, and obviously compared to their week 1 times, these are like 231, 230. These are the sort of times I'm more expecting out of them, and I still think, even though the Hamster goes down, Laser goes up. I still think that both of them had a solid run. We'll probably see them again week 4 anyways. We'll get to that in the predictions, but yeah, I'm impressed both with Laser and Hamster here. Significantly better time than week 1, and maybe even just going to continuously get better as the tournament goes on. So obviously they weren't going to compete with Evan here. Now moving on to Evan, and yeah, wow, I did not see this sort of time coming. The best time of the tournament so far. I wasn't keeping up too much on his like PB situation. I do know that he was like 20 plus seconds ahead going into CCT on his PB, and I do know that he just golded it tons of splits in the back half because obviously you can't really gold stuff on the front half when you have saves unless you just put together the most amazing level of all time. But yeah, really, really, really impressive on Evan's part. Like, I could see it even in the week 1 match. Like, he would have beat me and Justin, take away the Droid Factory soft lock, and that's still like going to be a pretty solid time without the Droid Factory soft lock. It's not incredible like his in time this week, but it's still pretty solid. Take away that. So I saw last week. I'm like, all right, Evan's on his game, and then this week he really showed it. It kind of just burst out like boom, 230 or 223-21. Yeah, really impressed by Evan here, and I don't really see a way where Evan doesn't get the 4 seed. Yeah, sorry, I was the 4 seed at this point. Um, that's why I'm like a little disappointed. Like even though I even though I was the beneficiary of the Droid Factory soft lock, I had him as the 2 seed, and he would have gotten the 2 seed with this performance this week if you had been in the top rung. So I'm like a little disappointed on the fact that like, damn it, yeah, that I would have been perfect on my prediction of him at the 2 seed. I don't see him like, I guess obviously next week he definitely will be moving up. I guess there's always the chance that he plays Jared potentially next week. We'll get more into those predictions or sorry, week 4. There's always that small chance, but I really don't see Evan losing another match or getting even second in another match, um, until top 8 or whatever. So I think Evan's pretty much locked as the 4 or the 5 seed at this point. I would be shocked if he were to lose. After that performance, I guess unlucky things can happen. Soft locks can happen, of course. No guarantee, but I would be shocked if anything besides the 4 or the 5 seed at this point from Evan. Clearly, I don't want to say he's clearly the second best right now just because of one time, but judging from his 2 times, you take away the Droid Factory soft lock on match 1. That's kind of just the best times put up minus Zach's, because like, yeah, I think he's the second strongest player just off the first, just using tournament match. If you included outside runs outside the tournament, Jared definitely number 2 right now, maybe even Ginger. Both of them are getting 222s. So, but just counting tournament times, he looks like the second strongest player in the tournament right now. Anyways, moving on. Enough with my Roadhouse glazing. Rung 2. This was a very interesting match. I believe I said this could go one of 2 ways, where it's I said Jared and EJP Man are the 2 ends of it. Like, Jared's gonna win, EJP Man's projected to get 3rd, but I said Frost is gonna be the determiner of this race because we could see a really strong Frost, like a minus 130 into CCT Frost, or we can see like what we saw week 1 Frost and a little shaky, and it could be interesting. So I thought like Frost could spoil the parties for first, but he could also lose this match too. So obviously there was the big shenanigans on Speeder Showdown, like his speeder disappeared and then reappeared and then he didn't see it and left the level. So like obviously that kind of caused most of this race being as close as it was. But even before that, I still thought EJP Man was pretty much in it the whole time. And yeah, Frost obviously is just overall better at the back half than EJP Man, so he's able to come back. Oh no. Am I still recording? Okay. I think we're good. I think I just went offline or my internet died for a second, but I think that doesn't affect my local recordings at all, so yeah, we're good. Okay, anyways. But yeah. Promising. Where was I at? Yeah. Good back half from Frost. He wins the match. Still. I really thought EJP Man could just pull that off. I really did. But then a disappointing CCT. But still no fault to EJP Man. Even with the really bad CCT, gets a better time than he did last week. He's just going to keep getting better, and he would have had like an easy 28 if he just didn't mess up episode 5 as badly as he did. So I'm not even faulting EJP Man for the loss there, because we knew if he went to rung 1, he's probably not qualifying anyways. So it's not like tragedy that he lost the match. He's still kind of where he wants to be, and I think he's going to be strong in the next couple of matches. Top 8 competitor. Yeah, nothing really changes. I think still a strong performance from EJP. As for Frost, take away the speeder showdown shenanigans. It's an okay time. He definitely doesn't get close to winning the race, but it's an okay time. I think basically I still think Frost is competing for that 5, 6, 7 seed still at this point. Like I don't really think I see the potential of Frost getting like maybe if Jared has just a horrible run next week and I also falter, like maybe Frost gets the 3 seed, but I don't really see him getting the 3 through 5 at this point. Or sorry, 3 or 4, maybe 5, but I see Frost competing for the 6 and 7 at this point, which is kind of expected. And of course we're going to see him try to put on a show in the top 8, which anyone can really win at that point. But yeah, not faulting Frost too much on this performance. He's been doing well offline or off the tournament, like in other normal attempts, so can't really fault him too much on this one. And as for Jared, honestly, he should have had a much better time than 2:24.42. Pretty solid run from him. I'm pretty impressed. I'm a little nervous about trying to beat him next week. I think he's going to be getting a significantly better time than even Ginger did in his match against me last week when I could have gotten promotion or qualification. So yeah, I think Jared really strong performance. Faltered a little bit at the end. Not completely his fault. I still think yeah, it's kind of what he needed. And my headset's died, so this is amazing. Let me plug this in real quick. This recap is going to be very, very long, having so many issues. Technical. Jesus. Let me adjust my camera a little bit. Taking a quick break. Let me get my headset Doesn't really matter. I just need my mic, but okay. Anyways, moving on. This is gonna be such a long recap again. Rung one, Ginger, Justin, myself. This race was. I mean, once again, I had to watch it back. So Ginger comes out pretty much and just leads the whole way. Ginger was on pace for a 23 again, and then kind of falters in 5, or specifically CCT. So just like he deserved to win this race, because I mean Justin had a weird pod frog miss on top of it, which kind of just started him off on the wrong foot. But then he caught back up with me. I guess here I don't want to move on from Ginger completely because he just had a solid run, and I think he's gonna be really good. There wasn't like too much to talk about on Ginger in this run because he just played really well. Faltered a little bit on CCT, but he played well enough that it didn't matter. So, congrats to Ginger. He's got the 2 seed. Should be, once again, a threat to win the tournament. Not too much to say about him. But as for me and Justin, that race between us was pretty interesting when watching it back. He came back towards in 4, and he was there in 6 and 3. And then, obviously, like, I had a bad 5 in this run. And I thought, like, I thought I lost. And then when I saw Justin was as far behind as he was, that kind of surprised me. I think I was like 30 seconds ahead LTA wise into CCT. So he was also having a really bad episode 5. And then he had the bit, like, it would have been I think I still would have won the race, but it would have been a significantly closer gap, like within 30 seconds, if he hadn't had the DV1 problems. But yeah, I'm not too thrilled about my performance personally, just speaking on myself. I still think, even though the time between this and the first race is pretty much the same, I should have done much better this run. Like, with a reasonable episode 5, I was just looking at because I lost like 50 seconds on Hoth to my gold and just like 20 seconds on Falcon Flight, CCT, and Bespin to my golds. I'm just like, yeah, I probably could have even won this race. It would have luckily been a lucky win because of a bad CCT from Ginger. But if I just had like a normal episode 5 instead, unfortunate. I still plan to keep up the kind of the offline practice and whatnot for next week. I'm gonna have to come out with a big performance against Jared and Frost. But moving on to our predictions, this who knows how long this is gonna be. I don't care at this point. Core Phantom Zoda. Yeah, this is gonna be another one of those weird races where you see like the 12 seed in the bottom rung. but Core is not playing like a 12 seed. I can tell you that much. Um, just judging from their times last week, Soda should be favored by a mile, but it's definitely not the case. Phantom, I think Phantom might be the favorite to win this one, just barely. Um, it's so weird to think because Phantom, Zoda, and I think Core is the most likely to lose. Like, it's crazy to me because he just hasn't shown me any signs of like life in this tournament at all. Like, the fact that he's going to go out week 3 as the 12 seed is just like, whoa. Because we start with 26, we lose 2 in play-ins, we lose, so we're down to 20 now. 12, and he's going to get the 20th place in theory is just kind of crazy to me. Of course, he's going to have to just win every match from here on out to get the 8 seed. And the problem is with, the task for the people in the bottom rung, especially with aspirations the 8 seed, it's unlikely between weeks 3 and 8, 4 and 8, whenever you're in the bottom rung, that there's not going to be a week where you accidentally soft lock, make a big mistake, and that might just cost you your race. For example, like the soft lock that Anorak had. So it's unlikely to not have that sort of event for 5 weeks running. So I'm not really too excited about any of these guys' top 8 hopes, but for the match specifically, I think Core's most likely to go down. My prediction. I think as Phantom is the slight favorite, I will take Zoda to win this one just because of how impressed I was with him this week. I think he takes some momentum into next week. He goes from someone who I think is going down for sure to someone who I think stays up at least until next week. I think I'm very impressed with Zoda. I think he'll continue to keep grinding throughout the week until his match. I think he goes up. I think he has a really close race with Phantom. I'm impressed with Phantom, especially with the PBs outside of the tournament, but I think he might lose a close race against Zoda here. I say Zoda goes up, and that will be the final. And Phantom plays him close, and I'm no idea what we're going to get from Core, but I don't think it's going to be good enough to stay up. Who knows? Core could just put on a really good run and stay up, but we haven't seen any signs of that from him lately, so I can't say that. Zoda goes up is my prediction there. Or stays alive, basically. Revulo, Garrison, Twice Light. Oh, this is going to be a great matchup. Really, because Revulo, without the shit on Spaceport, I think he gets the best time out of those 3 last week. But this is just going to be a really good race because I think Twice Light, not technically, I think he's barely favored in this match, just based off PB. But he had a bad race last week. Garrison didn't have a great race. Like, Garrison has proved that, he definitely can have some faulty races in the tournament. I mean, hopefully, we'll see if there's another no pod fraud agreement between them. So between these 3, I have no idea. This is I can't name this race of the week because the race of the week is yet to come. I know which one I'm choosing for that, but this is going to be a really good one. Anyone could win this one. I think anyone could win this one. It's going to be who's on their best day and who makes the least amount of major mistakes. I'm going to go Twice Light. I'm just going to take the best PB here, but I could see anyone winning this run. I think I'm going to take Twice Light to win, have a little bounce back from last week. Ooh, second place is going to be close too. I'm going to say Garrison squeaks out a second place here. I think Twice Light wins this one by a minute or 2. I think Garrison squeaks out a second place over Revulo. Not that I'm projecting Revulo to do bad or anything by getting third. I think they're all gonna do fine this race, but I think Garrison squeaks out a second place to stay out of the bottom rung. And unfortunately, I think Revulo goes down. But I think that result can be completely flipped. I think Revulo could even win the race. I think Garrison could win the race. I think any order is within possibility. I'm gonna go with Twice Light, Garrison, Revulo, but that's no hit on Revulo or anything. I still think it can go anyway. I'm gonna go Twice Light though there, and Garrison moves up too. I guess we're not bottom rung, so 2 people go up. Anyways, next match: Hamster, Flup, Charizite. This is one of those matches where, unfortunately, Hamster's in the same situation as last week, except he's the one that's heavily favored. Not as favored as Evan over Hamster and Lazo. So there's a little bit less of a favored situation here for Hamster. than compared to his gap last week, but I definitely think he still wins this race. Like if he puts up anywhere close to the performance he put on last week, which his run wasn't even that great. He had some disasters here and there, but was still able to get a decent time. 2:31 should be more than good enough to win this race. Um, Hamster would have to have a terrible disaster run. Like even his week 1 run was a disaster, like absolute disaster, but it was still good enough to be okay. He would have barely lost the flops time, but this week, but he would need an absolute disaster, and that's just that would be second place, right? I think Hamster wins this race pretty handedly. Um, as for Flup and Charizard, it's just going to be another, El Clasico here of Flup and Charizard. Last week I chose Charizard to take revenge, but Flup strikes again. I think if Charizard chills out on the nerves, because see the thing is Charizard's better at the early game, will take the lead, and then Flup's better at the back half, specifically 5, I guess. And he's mounted those comebacks every single time. I think this week, oh god, it's hard to choose between them. I'm gonna say again, I say Charizard squeaks this one out for second place. I think he locks in on that episode 5 practice. I think he'll have that advantage in the first 3 episodes, maybe first 4 episodes. And I think this time he doesn't give up the lead. I think he still wins barely, like it's going to be a close margin again. I'd say Charizard squeaks it out. But yeah, it should be another great race between Charizard and Flup as Hamster just demolishes them. But that'll be a fun one, and that's going to be Charizard moving up to rung 3 next week. Yeah, that's really, really strong performances from Charizard and Flup so far. And that's my prediction there. It's going to be a great race for second. Hamster should handedly win that one. Even with a disaster, I think Hamster still wins. And then this is going to be rung 3 next week is going to be my match of the week. This is going to be a great one. We saw the first race between EJP and Blakey, and that was really good. Both of them are putting up very, very similar times, and harass me as well. Like, yes, he hasn't had the best 2 times in week 1 and 2, but we've seen PB wise that he can compete, and I wouldn't even be surprised if he played close to his PB in a match, which I think would be good enough to be close enough to compete here. So I think this is match of the week. I don't think Harazmi can win this one because I think either EJP or Jablaki, one of them might get a 228 here, which I think is a little too much for Harazmi. Even a low 229 might be, even though I think Harazmi can do that. It would be impressive to do in a tournament match for him. I don't think Harazmi wins this one, but I definitely think he could get second place because it's at the level where like one major disaster could just determine the whole race. Where if something bad happens to EJP or Jablaki, Harazmi can easily just get the number 2 spot and hold the second place in that race the whole time. But take away any major disasters, this should be a really, really good match for first between EJP and Jablaki, with Harazmi probably pretty damn close behind. So I'm going to go with the prediction. I say Jablaki wins the race. But I have EJP Man for my top 8. See, the thing is, I think EJP Man makes top 8, but I think Jablaki might win this race specifically. I think EJP Man will get revenge later on in the tournament. But I think it's going to be a really close race between all 3. Jablaki wins, EJP second, Harazmi third. Not discrediting Harazmi at all. I think he can easily be second in this if something happens to one of the EJP and Jablaki. He could maybe even win, but I think Jablaki wins the race. EJP Man a very close second, Harazmi a very close third. It's going to be the match of the week, I think, as long as no major disasters happen, which clearly we can't count on that in this tournament because all that we're seeing are like every damn soft lock, hard lock in the book that's possible. Every disaster that's possible. We're witnessing at this tournament, but I can't really predict the next disaster, but we know it's to come. So disaster list, this is going to be the race of the week for sure. Then we have rung 2, Evan, Justin, Laser. As much as I'd like to say that Laser had a good match. Laser had a good match last week. He's certainly not staying up this week, or getting promoted, pardon. And I think Laser knows that as well. Evan, as you can see, comparing him to Evan, he was 7 minutes back to Evan. even if Evan were to have a terrible run and Justin were to have a terrible run, Laser still would have to like PB to even get close. So, uh, Laser gets demoted here. I don't want to touch too much on that. But yeah, still, I think Laser's expecting it. I think it's going to be more of, for Laser, how good of a time can I get? Like, can I keep improving on myself this tournament and put up a decent time again? I like definitely shouldn't take this match lightly. Like, I think you should still really focus in on this one, even though it's very, very likely you're not gonna get second or win. As for winning the match, I even though Justin has been like actually okay, I can't say last week was impressive from Justin, but even though in runs outside of the tournament, Justin's been impressive. Evan's been more impressive in the tournament. I think Evan wins the match. He would have beaten me and Justin week one without the Droid Factory soft lock. He would have destroyed me and Justin week two. So I say Evan wins the match. Justin probably a relatively close second. I think Justin just needs to put together just an okay run. Like he doesn't have to do anything spectacular here to get top two. And honestly, as much as Evan and Justin want to win this match, they're just gonna be trying to play disaster free just to get to the top rung. I think is the main goal. Of course, winning the match is important as well, but not as important as getting to rung one. I think Evan takes the win there. And then rung one, this will be another fun match. Of course, I'm gonna be in it as well. I think the obvious favorite here is Jared. I'll just come out and say it. I think Jared's gonna win the match. However, I think Jared is prone to having some of the runs where disaster, like the first run as well. Like if one disaster happens, it could just be a snowball effect, and Jared could just go toppling down. So I think Jared could lose this one. There's like a higher percent chance of him like getting last than second. It's kind of weird to say because I think me and Frost are kind of going to be on similar level in this race where it should be like if everything were to play out textbook wise, Jared wins the match and it's going to be a dogfight for second between me and Frost. Like it's going to be a close match. But in a world where Jared like loses a bunch of time and just has a really bad run, I think me and Frost could just be taking first and second, and be right around a similar time, like between 224 and 225 ish, like that range. I think that's a reasonable range to predict for me and Frost. Honestly, it's too big to say. That's a very big range, but it's a minute 30, so like I think me and Frost should be pretty close on this one, and it's gonna be kind of dependent on what happens to Jared this run. Like I don't think me and Frost are quite at the point where we could put together a crazy run that just like if Jared has a good run we beat him. Like I don't think that's gonna happen. But at the same time, like I guess one of us could just make a big mistake and just be completely lost. But I think this race is more going to be determined on what the heck Jared does. If Jared's going to have a really good run, it's going to be me and Frost dueling it out for second. If Jared has a really bad run, it's going to be me and Frost dueling it out for first. So to be seen on that one. I'm going to go Jared wins. I predicted myself to go down last week and I didn't, so I'm going to predict myself to stay up this week and Frost to get third. Gotta believe myself after what I did myself last week. All right, and that will conclude the predictions video. This might be longer than last week's because I just yada 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 some technical issues. But it's always really really fun to make the recaps, and I hope you guys like them as well. Before I end, shoutouts to Saber. I wanted to shout him out for making this sheet here, giving us. He's helping collect match data. Kind of this. I kind of like went through this as well before. I try to watch every single match, or at least watch the replays if I don't get to see them live. But this really helps me just like before I make the videos, get a little summary. Some of them aren't filled out. You can't expect this man to carry the whole tournament here on recaps. But generally these summaries at the bottom help me out tremendously if I didn't see a moment of the match. Big shout out to Saber here. I think he might even week 3 is going to be coming in here as well. He's already got that sheet set up. All right, but yeah, that'll do it for this week. I can't wait for next week. I can't wait for my own match, and yeah, can't wait for Anonymous. One more thing, shout out to Anonymous. He's making recaps too, so make sure to check his out. I'm sure he'll make a week 2 recap / 3 predictions as well. So check out his first one from last week. Check out his one from this week that's likely to come soon, and yeah, that'll be that for this week. See you guys next week.